Restoring Illinois to greatness. This is Illinois Rising, presented by the Illinois Opportunity Project and hosted by AM 560's Dan Proft.
Dan back with Ted on this edition of Rising and the Sterigenics story. I mean, it just gets worse and worse and more curious as you dig deeper, as we continue to do at DuPagePolicyJournal.com. Junk science meets junk journalism, meets junk lawyers, the vultures in the plaintiff's bar with the billboards on the expressways, scaremongering and frightening families in Burr Ridge and Willowbrook and Hinsdale and Darien over the Sterigenics facility in Willowbrook. Even after the EPA essentially walks back the doom and gloom report from the fall. We talked about this. We talked about it last week. Here I want to focus on the journalism. This because Michael Hawthorne, who's this flunky for the Chicago Tribune, is the worst offender in this case. The issue is the release of ethylene oxide, which we had him on my morning show. Rich Trupek, who's a environmental engineer. He's also a scholar at the Heartland Institute here in suburban Chicago. He tells us ethylene oxide is no different from many other organic compounds in that they are all volatile and can be dangerous. It depends on the concentration level and the environment. Natural gas is a good example of an organic compound that is used safely in business and homes every day. But it doesn't mean that it isn't volatile and can't be dangerous. I mean, you can kill yourself by over-ingesting water. The dosage makes the poison, right? But that's not what the Tribune is reporting. Even after EPA and CDC, including at this most recently held town hall in Willowbrook, have, without saying it explicitly, conceded they have no data to back up their hysterical claims, you still have the Tribune and certain left-wing activists promoting the hysteria in these communities. It's remarkable. They're just completely uninterested in evidence. And so this is the best. Rich Trupek told us to, why don't you take a look at Chicago Tribune's Freedom Center printing facility and the Illinois EPA permit that was issued to the Tribune's printing facility. And we did. And what you find is the Tribune is actually permitted to emit more ethylene oxide than is Sterigenics. When's Michael Hawthorne's scare story on the Tribune coming? 39,800 pounds a year is what the Tribune is allowed to emit in ethylene oxide per the Illinois EPA. And oh, by the way, the position of the Chicken Little crowd in the Western Burbs is zero emissions, zero ethylene oxide, utopian silliness. So he goes on, does Hawthorne, it does Trupek about Hawthorne to say his lack of understanding of basic scientific concepts, coupled with his determination to twist facts to support his central hypotheses that industries poison people, has led to grossly inaccurate assertions in his reporting. And Trupek also told us that people like him who are actual experts and actual engineers and have actual scientific expertise know about Hawthorne, and they don't. They know he's a propagandist. The ethylene oxide emissions at Sterigenics, which has been there for 30 years in Willowbrook, are not only in compliance with the law, they pose no safety risk to air quality in the region. And what Trupek gave a good example of, look, he said, your backyard barbecue releases more dangerous carcinogens in a concentrate than what we're talking about with Sterigenics, which, oh, by the way, on the other side, Sterigenics' business is sterilizing life-saving medical equipment. So how many lives are they saving with the product they produce and distribute and yet they're being held up as, without evidence, as some kind of polluter endangering lives. This is how upside down this world is, thanks to leftist activists, leftist propagandists, and their handmaids in the Chicago Press Corps like Michael Hawthorne. It's just remarkable.
And it's not, I guess it's not just limited to this, right? It's what we see in the newspapers every day.
Yeah.
Whichever public policy it is. And it's harder to find data-based writing that backs its claims with data. And what you're saying here is that Hawthorne makes all these claims and can't back it up.
Well, and that's the thing. Like at wirepoints.com, you guys present a case and then you provide the supporting data. These reporters at outlets like the Tribune, they're just like press release
They don't
writers.
have to.
They're speech writers.
Yeah, they don't have to, right? They're not required to, and nobody demands it of them.
And when the opposition follows the scientific method and does effectively peer review of your case and finds it not replicable, the reaction is you're funded by the Koch brothers. You're funded by
or your dad, or your data is wrong, right?
Yeah, or your data's wrong. Well, okay,
and we're typically using their own data,
right? As we were in this case, and not to mention the concession that they're operating within the bounds of law. So instead, what you get is like, well, I still have I have concern generally. I'm still, I have an abstract concern about pollution in the air. Well, so do I, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about this specific industry, this specific business, and this specific case, and your specific claims. I mean, it's just and
your claims matter, and that's something at WirePoints, and I know you guys, all of us on our side, what we try to do is if we're going to make a claim, you've got to back it up. And that's the way it works with a product. If you have a drug that's an ingestible, if you're going to make a claim, you better back it up with your science. But these guys don't have to anymore, and that's our challenge, I think, also as reformers, is that we're bumping up against all these people who make all these claims and don't have to back them up. And when they're sexy claims, they're hard to challenge.
And don't have to retract. I mean, being a government commissar at US EPA or being a Tribune propagandist posing as a reporter means never having to say you're sorry.